up, y'all? Toya here, and I am back with another video for y'all. Before we get into the video, make sure you guys leave a like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Alright, y'all. It is time that we take a deep dive into this topic. I have touched on this in the past, but it's been a while since I just had a dedicated video to talk about this. And yeah, that topic today is gonna be tipping. So buckle up, because you might be in for a ride today. Now, if you've been around on this channel, you kind of know how I feel about tipping. Now, I do not agree with tip culture at all. It has gotten out of hand, and the companies are simply exploiting it and just using it as an excuse to not pay their workers so they can get more money in their pockets. But I still do feel like there are a select few that are pretty deserving of tips, and that does include gig workers. Now, obviously, I am for the companies paying everybody fairly. You know, we wouldn't even be having this conversation if that was the case. Now, why am I making this video in the first place? So first of all, there was a friend of mine, and shout out to you. Thank you for inspiring me to do this video. And they ended up asking me a question about one of my shorts. So that short happened to pertain to tipping. And in short, he was pretty much just asking me, like, you know, why do I say the things that I say? You know, why do I feel this way? And why do I kind of twist it around back on the customers and make people think, right? And the first thing I told him, I was like, one, well, you got to watch the whole video in its entirety, because there's only so much that you can get out of a 60-second clip. So he did watch the full video, and he was able to understand exactly where I was going with that. And the second reason is what we're actually gonna discuss today. And lucky for me, there was actually an individual that commented on one of those shorts, and this actually kind of sums up everything perfectly. I agree, people should tip, but only after services have been rendered, in my opinion. Secondly, many consumers are totally disconnected from many people, products, and production. Clothing companies that utilize sweatshops are still used heavily without a care in the world. Companies that do not uphold ethical standards are still bought into. As a society, we don't care who is negatively impacted by our actions as long as we are not directly impacted negatively, or our families. This has been a huge problem for decades. Being a human is an experience/blessing that we all share. It would be nice to have compassion for one another. Thank you for sharing. And thank you for commenting as well. So I don't know if you're somebody that just happened to stop by or if you did subscribe, but yeah, if you're watching this video, shout out to you. Thank you. So yeah, this comment honestly sums up just about everything. If I can end the video here, I would, but I think we need to go ahead and break this down a little bit more. So yeah, there's a lot of selfishness in this world. There's lack of self-awareness. And honestly, that's really the reason why we are in the predicament that we are today. You know, a lot of these corporations are fueled by greed. You know, they just want to go ahead and make as much money as possible for themselves. So yeah, they'll go ahead and price gouge, raise the prices of goods, and they'll brag about, you know, record profits and this and that, but barely any of that money actually goes to the people who are doing the labor for you to go ahead and actually get those record profits. Most of that stuff is being pocketed. And if you want to go ahead and take it a step further and bring the politicians into it, you know, a lot of them are disconnected or just don't care. You know, probably a combination of both. You know, there's all these things that they're trying to put in place, and you know, most of this stuff doesn't affect them. You know, if anything, it's probably having a more positive impact for their lives. But for us regular people, you know, it's the complete opposite. And I know there's probably someone that's like, you know, how can you compare, you know, politicians and heads of corporations? How can you compare their selfishness and their greed to what I'm doing? You know, I have to go ahead and be selfish. I have to go ahead and do what's best for my family, right? And yes, obviously this is on a different scale, but selfishness is still selfishness, especially if you're doing something at the expense of somebody else. It doesn't matter if it's affecting hundreds of thousands of people or just one other individual. That is still an individual that has to deal with the consequences of your actions. You know, honestly, everything that we do, it does have a ripple effect in some way or another. You know, just like how this individual in this comment was saying, you know, how there are some companies with unethical practices, right? So say, for instance, you buy a t-shirt from a very popular company. So you go ahead and buy this t-shirt and you ain't thinking about it, right? But because you purchased that t-shirt, you know, you're giving profits to the company for one, right? And now the company's like, oh, look at that. You know, we're getting sales. You know, people love this product. Okay, you know what? Let's go ahead and up production. So we're going to go ahead and get these people to work harder to pump out twice the product in the same amount of time, because profits. And while yes, this might be an extreme example, there honestly is a lot of things that go on behind the scenes that we don't really know about. But regardless, you know, this is an example of how your actions might have an indirect effect on someone. Whereas tipping, you know, that's more direct. You're actually the individual that decides whether or not this person that's delivering your items is going to get just base pay, or if they're actually going to get a decent amount of pay to say that that order was worth taking. Now, to be quite honest, I actually agree with a majority of the comments that people leave when it comes to, you know, reasons as to why they don't tip. You know, the company should be paying, you know, tipping isn't mandatory, you know, it's not my job to pay your wage, you know, all of those typical comments, right? And I do agree 100%. Yes, the company should be paying. It should not be on the customer to do it. And yes, tipping should be on top of what they're already getting paid. Yeah, if they go above and beyond, sure, I think they deserve to go ahead and get extra compensation. Two things can be true at the same time. So while yes, these statements are true, they're also excuses, because as a customer, you are simply deflecting. You are not taking responsibility on how your actions are actually playing a part here. You are the one that is initiating this order. So you're having this restaurant or this store get these items for you, and then a driver is assigned, and then that driver has to go ahead and bring it to your doorstep. You are the initiator. And some people might be like, well, it's a service. It's available to me. You know, why can't I use a service? Well, just because you can doesn't mean you should. And I'm gonna give you guys my own personal example, okay? So about, I don't know, like a year or so ago, for some reason, I really wanted some Papa John's pizza. I don't know why I really wanted Papa John's, but I wanted some Papa John's pizza, okay? And I went ahead and I was like, okay, let me see where Papa John's is. Let me see if they deliver, okay? So I think I checked DoorDash, I checked Grubhub, and then I went directly to their website too. And there was not one that was in range. The closest Papa John's to me was actually in Indiana, which was about 10 miles away. So me being in Illinois and the closest restaurant is in Indiana, you know what, it ain't even that deep. You know, if I really wanted Papa John's, I'll just go ahead and pick it up when I'm on my way home if I happen to be passing by one, right? So a few months go by and I wanted pizza again. And I just wanted some pizza from a local spot. So I just typed in pizza just to see what was in the area. I was interested in trying something new. And lo and behold, Papa John's was on the list. So first of all, I'm like, oh, well, look at that. You know, maybe I give me some Papa John's. Because I sure did want some a few months back. Man, I did not know they opened up another restaurant that was closer to me. So look at me, I'm in luck, right? So I click on Papa John's and I'm looking at the address. I'm like, I don't know where that street is. Let me go ahead and look this up. And that's the same Papa John's that was there before in Indiana. And so I'm looking, I'm like, did they expand the radius as far as like how far the drivers can go and deliver? And I'm like, there's no way I'm about to go ahead and order this and have a random driver come all the way over here to deliver me some pizza. I don't know what base pay would have been, but I'm like, nah, I'm not gonna do that to somebody. That's all it is like, you know, just putting yourselves in somebody else's shoes. And I'm not saying you gotta do that every single time, but you know, just imagine being on the other side and you're like, man, somebody ordering pizza from a pizza place 10 miles away. And there's like all these other pizza places that are closer that you can choose from, but you choose Papa John's like 10 miles away. You know, all it is just about having respect and having empathy. I am not gonna go ahead and have somebody go out of their way to get me pizza from 10 miles away. That's just absurd. And speaking of having respect, let me tell you a story of what happened to my husband the other weekend. So he just recently started doing Uber Eats. So he's doing it on the weekends. And he was telling me that he had a gentleman message him after he picked up the food, and I guess he wanted him to deliver it in a very, very specific location. So instead of the front door, I can't remember what he said. I don't know if it was like near the garage or something like that, but the guy pretty much messaged him. He said, hey, can you do me a favor? You know, can you deliver it here? Like I said, whatever specific location it was at the house. And he was like, yeah, if you do that, I'll go ahead and give you an extra tip. So he was like, okay, you know, no biggie. I just got to go ahead and walk a few extra steps. So he left it there, took the picture, did whatever he had to do, completed delivery. And the lovely thing about Uber Eats is, you know, the fact that customers can modify their tips. So not only did he not get the extra tip, but he took away the original tip as well. There are individuals that'll do crap like that, and people who will lie and say they didn't get their food just so they can go ahead and get a free meal. And that is at the expense of a driver who could possibly be deactivated off the platform. Now, if you had a list of people from best to worst as far as the different customers you can deal with on these gig apps, these individuals would be the scummiest people on this list. They are at the top of the list. You know, these people do not have a care in the world about anybody else. It's all just me, you know, what I want. Oh, I need to save my money. oh, I'm trying to get this freebie or whatever. Like, a lot of y'all need to humble yourselves. Honestly, a lot of people need to humble themselves, because a lot of people look at gig workers as like less than just because they are doing that type of work. You know, wake up, look at how we're living. You know, a lot of people are one paycheck away from losing it all. Literally, if for some reason they did not get paid 1 week, they lose everything. And that's just how tight it is for a lot of people. And that's why there's such a big uptick in people doing gig work, because their 9 to 5 just ain't cutting it no more. So they have to go ahead and do work on the side. That person that is out there hoping that you go ahead and give them a decent tip to, you know, put gas back in their car, or to make sure they have a bill paid or a meal to eat for the night, you know, that person, you know, it could be you one day. You never know. And I'm not trying to wish bad upon people or anything like that, but like I said, some people really need a humbling experience and bring them back down to reality, because a lot of people are a-holes and treat other people like crap for no apparent reason at all, just because they can. Just because they can. And keep in mind, like, when I'm talking about individuals as far as non-tippers, you know, I'm talking about the majority of people who have the ability to do so and they choose not to for whatever selfish reason. You know, I understand that there are a handful of individuals who may not have the means to do so. You know, anybody that might be sick, elderly, disabled. You know, I do say that these services are luxuries, but unfortunately, there are some people that do rely on these services as necessities, because I have delivered to some of those people. Like when I was doing a few of my Walmart Spark orders, you know, there were some fairly large orders. I did get a decent payout on them, but there were no tips included. And, you know, you can just kind of tell if someone is actually genuine. You know, it's just like their tone, or, you know, the way that they say thank you, or if they offer to, like, oh, let me help you bring in the bags, or, you know, whatever it may be. You know, there are genuinely sincere people who, you know, may not be able to give a tip. So excluding those people. But like I said, a majority of individuals who do not tip, they have the means to do so. And like I said before, all of the reasons that they give, I find them as excuses, because they are just deflecting and not taking the responsibility for their part in this. You know, I'm not saying that people need to go and start changing the world and being more conscious of every single thing that they do. Oh, you know what, let me not go ahead and step this way because, you know, I don't want to cut this person off and do this. And, you know, you ain't got to go ahead and change your whole identity. Just be more mindful of how your actions might affect others, because it could be you on the other side. That's what I mean by humbling yourself. Like I said, I'm not trying to wish bad upon anybody or anything like that, because there are a lot of times where you might find yourself on that other side and you wish that this person had the human decency to do whatever it is you needed them to do to make your life a lot easier. You know, oh, I wish they would have just did this. All they had to do was this. I'm pretty sure you find yourself saying that from time to time. And a lot of times it's really the little things. You know, there's one thing that I noticed that I do that I don't think I noticed I did until like probably a few months ago. But every time I go grocery shopping, you know, I do my best to go ahead and put the cart back in the cart collector area or whatever, right? So sometimes they have like the large cart, they have small cart, and, you know, just make sure you put it in the right area, right? And then usually when I put the cart back, like if there's a cart already in there, I just push it in so, you know, the cart combines, right? Because, you know, they got to put all the carts together anyway. So I just push the cart in into the other cart. You know, some people, they'll just push the cart in, or they'll just leave it in the middle of the parking lot or whatever. And it's literally just that one extra step, just taking the cart, pushing it in, pushing it into the other cart, and boom, done. Took you like, what, 5 seconds maybe. And some people might be like, that ain't even that big of a deal. You know, that's what they supposed to do. That's what they getting paid to do. Blah, 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 blah. You know, that's job security. I hate when people say that's job security. I really do. Because there are so many things that could be easier for people if they just did their part. Like, they already have the cart collector thing right there, but people don't even want to go ahead and take a few extra seconds to push it over there. It's just like, I know that's a simple example, but no, seriously, you hear people saying, well, that's so easy. That's an easy job, blah, blah, blah. Well, if it's so easy, why don't you just do it? It only takes you a few seconds, maybe a few minutes, whatever it may be. If it's so easy, why don't you do it? Obviously, pushing a cart in is not going to change the world, but guess what? It makes things a bit easier for this person. Now they don't have to go and travel across the parking lot to get that rolled cart that rolled all the way down because you didn't want to go ahead and push it in. You just left it there in the middle of the parking space, and it just slowly rolled all the way down to the end of the parking lot. You know, little things like that. You know, all it is just having some respect, being understanding, and like I said, just having some empathy, having compassion for one another. It's not really that hard. Sometimes that extra $5 that you go ahead and put down as a tip, it could actually mean the world to somebody. You never know what somebody else is going through. You know, you could say the same thing for the customers. Well, you don't know what they're going through. Maybe they can't afford to go ahead and do it. And like I said, even if that's the case, you know, if they are a genuine human being, you know, I don't really have a problem with that. I really don't. But this is mostly for those folks that have the means to do so and don't for a variety of reasons, like I said, and that's just more or less just not taking responsibility of their part in this. You'll be surprised that there are a lot of people that don't tip that actually look down upon those people who are doing that type of work. I've seen somebody in the comment section, they're like, oh, you know, they dress all bummy and they smell and they do this. And then of course they assume that everybody that's doing gig work is illegal. You know, it's a combination of things. It's just really the disrespect, honestly. Like I said, if you are a genuine person, you know, sure, I'm not going to be tripping about it. But, you know, it's really the disrespect that comes along with it. That's the part that really irks me. That's who I'm talking to. Please humble yourself. Humble yourself, okay? But yeah, for the drivers, y'all, I'm gonna leave this little last segment for the drivers. I know I probably talked y'all head off, but I know over time, you know, dealing with certain people, and that's not just in gig work, this is also just in general. You know, even myself, I've been in IT for about 10 years now, and slowly but surely, you know, dealing with certain people and, you know, taking that disrespect from people, especially if you've been in, you know, that frontline support, dealing with people directly. Sometimes when you're dealing with those types of people, you know, it just kind of takes a little bit out of you, right? It takes a piece of you. And, you know, eventually you might become numb to it. You might just kind of laugh at it, but try to do your best to not let it, you know, affect you in a negative way as far as you being able to provide the best service that you can to others. Because, you know, for every, you know, one bad experience you might have 3 or 4 good ones. Drivers, respect the customers, even if they don't tip. You know, if they call you out your name, they say disrespectful things, whatever. Hey, have a nice day. I hope your day gets better. You know, be blessed. Whatever your saying is. You know, wish them the best and go about your day. Like I say, hearing from some people who don't tip, it can be very exhausting. And I'm not trying to say that tipping is like the way to go. Like I said in the very beginning, I do not agree with tip culture at all. You know, all these conversations that we be having about tipping, you know, we shouldn't be having these conversations. But sometimes we have to, you know, we have to bring awareness to issues. You know, if any of my videos can reach somebody and they can actually get an understanding of like, wow, okay, this is actually how the gig economy works. Because granted, there are a handful of people who don't really understand how the pay scale works for drivers, right? But unfortunately, I feel like there are enough people out there that know how things work and yet they still don't care. Referencing back to that same comment, people don't care unless it's affecting them or affecting their loved ones. But I know there's still going to be people out there that just simply don't care. They're probably going to laugh at this video. They're going to laugh at other people who say, oh, you know, you should tip, you should do this, blah, 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 blah. And they're going to say the same things. Get another job. It's not my responsibility to pay your wages. You know, tip is optional, blah, 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 blah. I get it. I completely get it. But as a member of this society, you know, we do expect you to do your part. We expect you to try to be a decent human being because on the other end, you know, if it was you, you would want somebody to treat you with that same level of respect. So yeah, just humble yourselves. Just humble yourself. So that's pretty much all I got. I know I was probably rambling for a bit. I was doing my best to go ahead and try to keep this flowing, but y'all know how I do sometimes. And this may or may not be what you were expecting. You know, I personally feel like that, you know, we don't do a lot of you know, thinking about certain things. You know, we take things for face value and we don't do any further digging. You know, I personally feel like that's how you elevate. You know, you think outside the box. You talk about things that people aren't talking about. You know, having intelligent conversations and not just saying, no, you shouldn't do this because of this and blah, 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 blah. You know, the internet is a lovely place. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if, you know, I find some of those comments in this video as well. So, but hey, what can you do? But yeah, that's all I got. Let me go ahead and get up out of here, y'all. So let me know what you guys thought of this video. If there is anything else that you would like to add or elaborate on or whatever, y'all know the drill. Let me know in the comments. Now, before I go, I have to remind you guys to leave a like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you do not miss a video. But I'm gonna go ahead and get up out of here, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'm gonna catch you guys on the next one. And as always, stay safe out there and keep grinding.